Hello, welcome back to my channel, Money Moves with Yvette. On my channel, you will see me learning how to budget, invest, and save my money as an instructional designer, formerly an elementary school teacher. Today I'm going to go over my net worth and my October budget with my newly created budget tracking spreadsheet. I want to give shout outs to some content creators' videos I used as inspiration to help me create my own budget tracker on a Google Sheets. First channel I watched was Ramit, whose channel is called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I also signed up for his email list and he sent me his great template titled The Conscious Spending Plan. The inspiration I got from him was the ability to learn how to find my net worth, and I inputted that into my own spreadsheet that you will see shortly. I did fill out his spreadsheet. I just needed more details on my budget tracker, like a calendar and a drop-down menu. Next, the second channel I want to shout out was Jeremy's Tutorials. He taught me a step-by-step process on how to create my budget tracker with drop-down menus on Google Sheets. I actually have Excel on my computer, but it does not work. I think it's corrupted, that program or my computer, so Excel does not show things properly and all the text is backwards, so I needed Google Sheets. And he had the perfect short to the point tutorial that I took inspiration from and created it to fit my needs for my budget tracker. The third channel I wanted to shout out was the channel called Think Like a Girl Boss. She helped me how to make a dynamic calendar on Google Sheets to put my bill due dates on the same spreadsheet as my budget tracker. The fourth channel I would like to shout out is Sister Bees. She was the first person that ever explained how she did her budget very thoroughly, and it clicked for me. So she helped me get my very first ever budget started. I used her idea to create my Canva template. At the moment when I saw Sister Bees, I was just in the mindset of I need help with something that just works and is tried and true, which at the same time was paper and pencil. I was not ready for the bells and whistles of spreadsheets. So go check out all these 4 of the channels I mentioned if you need help with inspiration and learning about budgets and creating templates. So I'm going to share my budget tracker. The spreadsheet is now finally the one I'm showing you right now. But again, I'm new to budgeting, so things are new. I was scared of Google Sheets and Excel because I thought all the bells and whistles and formulas were so much for me in the beginning, but here I am. I'm embracing Google Sheets. Let's begin with my net worth. In Ramit, he shared that your net worth is consistent of your assets, and I have listed here my house. It's $305,000. The worth of the value of it, supposedly through Zillow. And then my car, it's worth $16,000. I have a 2020 Jeep Renegade. And together the assets is $321,000. My investments are part of my net worth. I put in included 401k, included all investments like my S&P 500 direct portfolio, my individual automated investment stocks and bonds, some individual stocks, and my 403b from when I was a teacher. I didn't cash that out. So all that accumulated to $76,102. Those are my investments. My savings I have in my high yield savings emergency fund, $30,119. I have sinking funds for car premium, $1,050. I have sinking funds for annual memberships, $720. So together that comes up to $31,889. Then for my debts, they ask for student loans, don't have any, credit cards, don't have any, but I do have mortgage. My mortgage is $223,944. That's how much I owe on the house, and together that total net worth that I have is $205,047. So that's something that I am adding to my spreadsheet because I do think it is important, and before I didn't really want to put that on my spreadsheet, or I didn't have one right. I started with a regular budget from Sister Bees, which worked for me, but now I want to keep track of my net worth because I do think it's an important thing to have. But again, if you start without it, I did too. Now we're going to go to the next columns. This is going to be part of my tracker. It says income source. I have some drop down menus. And so I want to know what checks I'm receiving. And if I go into my first check, I clicked it and I can have a drop down menu on this Google Sheet, my budget tracker, to share, oh, well, maybe I'll get some tax refund or a bonus or other, and that'll be another source of income. So before, I just had my paper, my pencil, and it worked for me. And now I have drop down menus. It's easy to click, and I can go through and say, okay, check one. I plan on receiving this on, I have my date. I can click October 17th. Editing Yvette here. I forgot to mention the feature that I really liked is that on my date receipt of check income source, if I click on it, that box cell will give me a little drop down calendar. And if I were to say, oh, October 17th is check one, it changes and it just automatically does that and saves me the trouble of having to type. So I really like that feature that I learned from Jeremy's tutorial. Back to the scheduled programming. Again, I have an October check for my second check is going to come the 24th, and this is my actual income I'm netting 1,991. If you come over to the left, you can see I have my gross income. Ramit also suggested that we know how much we're gross income coming in, but the net also put it into his conscious spending plan. So I like that idea, and I also got inspiration to keep that in the forefront. That I am netting 3,982, and that's what I'm working with. And these two numbers do come up to that total. Now we're moving on to the category that is all expenses. I put all my expenses from fixed, variables, and included debts. Okay, let's see. In this row, I have a cell phone expense of 143 due the 26th. I categorized it as a need. The thing about my spreadsheet is I love drop-down menus, and I was able to say this is a need. It could have been a want. It could have been a debt, but it's a need. And I'm going to say which check will I use. I said check number 2 to cover cell phone. My Cox internet, it's going to be for $52 due the 24th. I labeled it, categorized it as a need, and I'm going to cover it with check 1. I have Apple storage and I pay $4 on the 11th. I categorize it as a want, and I'm going to pay with check 1. I have another Apple photo storage and it's going to be $3 due the 24th. I labeled it as a want. I said that's going to be paid with check number 2. I have water. The bill is going to be $80 and it is due the 29th. I labeled it as a need and it's going to be paid with check 1. I have dad's medicine cost. I'm going to be paying for the month $300, and that's going to be with check 1 and check 2 covering that amount. Let me put monthly on this part just because that's how much I'm paying monthly. So that's a need. I need to supply that money to my father for his medicine. Then I have a rent. It's $1,400. It's due the 1st and it's a need. And I'm going to cover all of the rent with check 2. Electricity, I have the cost of $300. I say that's going to be my monthly amount. It's a need, and I used both check 1 and check 2 to cover that. Gas for my car, I have $160. That's the monthly amount, and I'm going to say that's a need, and I plan to cover check 1 and check 2 for that gas. Groceries, I have $500 for the month. That's a need, and I'm using both check 1 and check 2 to cover groceries. I have indexed universal life insurance. I get charged $50 on the 26th. It's a need, and I have check 2 covering that. My Costco membership, it's an annual fee. It's $142. I asked Copilot to tell me how much do I set aside in my sinking fund. to get ready for this cost that's going to come up in December. And I've been already funding it for a while. And I do $6 a month. And I use check one and check two. My AAA roadside assistance, it's an annual fee of $100, but Copilot told me to set aside 6 monthly, and it's a need, and I'm using check one and check two to fund that $6. Being Yvette here, I was noticing I made a mistake on my membership for how much I'm setting aside for Costco. I should be doing, instead of the $6, I should be doing 12 for the monthly. It is 6 bi-weekly. And then also for the roadside assistance, I was like, it should be 12 monthly, 6 bi-weekly. Okay, back to regular schedule. Amazon Prime, my total is $140 for the annual, but Copilot says to set aside $12 monthly. It's a want, and I use check one and check two to fund that sinking fund. My Canva membership, I said Copilot again. It gave me $12 to set aside monthly. It's labeled as a want, and I cover that with my check one and check two. My Squarespace website annual fee is $20, and Copilot said to set aside $2 monthly, and that's a need. I am an instructional designer, and I have a portfolio that showcases my work, and I need that, so I use check one and check two to fund that sinking fund. My car insurance premium is $1,000 every 6 months, and I asked Copilot, it said to set aside $200 and to fund it in 5 months. A monthly, I said 200, and it's going to be covering with check one and check two that. So those are my expenses in the red, or in the portion I just showed. Now we're moving on to the yellow. Yellow is my savings. I listed all my sinking funds for future expenses like birthday gifts, transfers to my high yield savings account for emergency fund, and investments. So the first row says my wealth front. I try to set aside $50 a month into my high yield savings, and I do that with check one and check two to fund that. My vacations, I set aside $100 a month into that sinking fund, and I use check one and check two. Gifts for birthdays, I set aside $100 into that sinking fund using check one and check two. Investments, I have $200 going into to automated investing account, and I invest 200 with check one and check two, and that's the whole month. Investment for S&P 500, I invest 200 using check one and check two. And my new car fund, I set aside 100 monthly in that sinking fund using check one and check two. And this is the yellow for savings and investments. And I wanted you to see that I could put the drop down menu here, and you could tell if it's an emergency, if it's my high yield savings account or sinking fund or investment. I like those drop down menus. Okay, so now we go to the total calculations. As you can see, the total calculations is color coded, so my total net worth is $3,982. If we go back to the green, this is my total net worth up here, and these two numbers are added to get this number. Then the red, the total expenses that were over here in this list, it adds it up. In this category says I have total expenses of the month totaling $3,230. Then my yellow is my savings and investments, and that's how much I plan to save and invest for the month, $750. And then this part is once I subtract the total expenses and the amount saved, how much do I have left for money remaining to spend guilt-free. And it says $2, and I know that when I do my expenses, I have more money left over. Like, I shoot high for the expenses of groceries. I shoot high for the expenses of gas. And sometimes I get leftover money. So that's what I use to continue to do some fun stuff. And for the best part, even though I love all of my spreadsheet, the best part is the calendar. So the calendar part, it looks better when it looks like this. I want to show you that you can tap on the first cell of the calendar that's dynamic. And if you click, let's say this is going to be for November, I want to start a November calendar. See how that changes all of the dates, and it can keep changing. Let's say I want to change it to December. Tap on the cell, and then once I tap on the cell, I'm going to change the date to December, and now I have a brand new right here calendar. And then here you could put the date, and it's that drop down menu where you can say, well, on December 31st, I know I have my mortgage due. And I type in mortgage, and you can even type in how much next to it, and then you say enter, and it goes straight to that spot. And so this also helps because you can say to yourself, oh, this week I need to be ready for my mortgage if you don't have it already automated. So I want to go back to my calendar here. It says October 31st, I put in rent $1,400, and I can look for it down here. It should be right here. And I just did that with all my expenses. I typed in, okay, when is my cell phone? My cell phone's October 26th. I tapped on that cell, and it just said, okay, it's due the 26th. And then I said the amount is $52. I said enter, and it went to that cell, October 26th. Where is it? It's October 26th. Right here, you see? So I just want you to know that, yep, this is my whole spreadsheet with the help of, again, those YouTubers. I was able to know how to create my spreadsheet that tracks my net worth, tracks my expenses, tracks my savings and investments, and this works for me, and it's not going to be set in stone. I can still add something to it, take something away, but for now I really enjoy my new bells and whistles spreadsheet. If you made it to the end of this video, I want to say thank you for watching, and give me a like, subscribe, leave me a comment, and share with a friend, and check out my other videos. Talk to you next time.